It's time for the movie raid, and tonight's victim is special effects, as well as director, as well as writer Robert Kurtzman, who has done many projects such as Wishmaster, Predator, Misery, From Dusk Till Dawn, and countless others. Hello.
Hey, how you guys doing today?
What have we been up to today?
Currently working, we just wrapped a movie called The Funhouse Massacre, so believe it or not, we're unloading all the props and effects and trying to reorganize the shop right now. Just finished that up. We've been shooting for about the last month on nights.
How many projects have you been doing? It seems like you've been busy for the last couple months, or is this the main one that you've been working on?
No, it's been, off and on. Every couple months we have a project that comes in, and sometimes we have two at the same time or more, so we're doing that, and we're also doing our haunt line at the same time, because I have a haunted attraction merchandise line that we go out every March with to gear up for Halloween season,
So is it every day like Halloween for you in a way?
Kind of, yeah. Actually, I avoid Halloween, actually. The Halloween weekend, I kind of hide. Everybody wants their makeup's done, so they can go to contests and things. I'm like, no. I do it all year long. I don't care. It's a job.
It's a job every day, 365 days.
The weird part is a lot of requests for Halloween weddings,
But that's a bitch.
Everybody wants to be done up as a zombie or something.
But when it comes to special effects, as far as the makeup, when it comes to practical and impractical, do you think it's actually a good thing to use both in this specific aspect?
It depends on what it is. I think a good mix of both works really well, but obviously I come from more of a practical background and prefer to watch as much in-camera effects over the digital stuff. But, there's certain films that, Guillermo del Toro does it really well, where he mixes the practical and live-action stuff with the digital on it. He knows how to do it. And I think a lot of times now, filmmakers tend to be lazy by not figuring out how to actually merge the two together or take the time to do the practical, decide just to do it all in post. And part of that's a studio system that does that to them as well, They just go, put them up against green screen, we'll worry about it later, and that way, the executives can make a decision later about the look of whatever it is they're putting in, the creatures or the backgrounds or the sets,
Yeah, it's all about time management for them, at least, and then when it comes down to it, it's during and after and before as far as money production goes, as far as product goes. So you kind of have to cut it down, and I think, I agree, it does work in both ways with practical and impractical, but like you said, they have to get this product out as fast as they possible.
Right, and, sometimes it's just not financially viable to do a practical element, especially when it comes to size. You start getting things that are over a certain size, and it becomes really cumbersome to operate. You got many puppeteers, and when you have something like a dinosaur with 20 people operating it, people don't realize those are 20 people getting SAG contracts and residuals later, so it's money they have to account for later. And a lot of times it's just easier for them to go, hey, we'll have two guys sit in the animation booth and do it, the 20 people on set. But also, it's not really practical to make, a full-size animatronic dinosaur run down the street. You can obviously do the upper half or the, close-up parts. It doesn't really make sense to, try to build something like that. Remember when they did King Kong and they boasted, we built a full-size animatronic Kong?
Oh, yeah.
For the Dina De Laurentiis one? It was actually, it was pretty much just stood there and barely moved, It was so big.
As far as digital effects, basically all these upgrades and everything, do you think special effects is kind of losing its value in terms of quality because of this?
No, what I think is the problem is that because we now are so accustomed to seeing all this unbelievable imagery thrown at you, and it's possible to do anything now, that it's not amazing anymore. It's like you expect it now, and so you go see a big blockbuster movie, and you're used to seeing thousands of people running and battling and stuff, and it's just not amazing. It's like, oh yeah, okay, that's cool, but I've seen it now 100 times. So it basically comes down to the story. You get some interesting storyline or interesting characters, and if they suck you in, then go along for the ride,
When it comes to the animatronics and to the raw base of it, it's like you didn't know that this was a live animatronic type entity and something new, something that just pops. But now with the digital effects, it's not entirely bad with that, but the fact is it's not there. The whole interesting part of it, it's like you already, it's like a production line, you already know it's there.
Right. Now, obviously, and the other thing is, it's the same way with artwork, actually, to tell you the truth. You do design work now. A lot of your design work done on the computer, and it's kind of sad because there's no actually physical piece later on. Could be put in a museum or anything, there's nothing there. It's just, okay, a digital print, but which is what's so cool about, the movies that I grew up on and stuff. props and things there that you can see and touch and interact with, especially the actors. It's kind of the way it's going, I mean, and there's something really funny. I just saw an article on practical effects versus CGI, and, is practical going to make a comeback? And it said it never left, and it's true. It hasn't ever left. It just kind of had to reintegrate into the new technology that was out there, and see the filmmakers getting used to using both or figuring out how to do it and merge the two. So, I don't think practical ever leave, and I think there's a swing to practical again, a swing back to filmmakers, especially in the smaller budget realm, actually trying to, do everything in camera and as practical as possible. And so it's cool.
Do you feel like you kind of lost your ability to have that control in a way because the filmmakers are basically taking over a majority of this? Or anything that you would have full control of for the most part?
Because you're making a movie for someone else, you never really have full control of anything. Because you can do 50 designs, and half the time they'll pick the one you hate the most.
Yeah.
It's like you'll come up with what you think is the coolest design, and then they decide, we want it to be pink, not blue, But everyone's spending the money, so basically my job is to facilitate the director's vision and try to, make them happy.
Is this the reason why you would do, as far as some of the directing and writing yourself, to have that kind of control?
No, but here's that thing. I don't even have that kind of control when I do write and direct, because there's still the money people and still the producers that have a say-so. So you still have to sell them on your ideas and your concepts as well, and you try to basically just, guide them toward the direction you want to go in. And sometimes it doesn't go that way, but, that's part of the game. It depends, too, on the filmmaker. Some filmmakers, work really closely with us through the design process and give a lot of support to you and trust, your vision. So it just depends on really the filmmaker and what the project is. There's occasional projects that come up that are really fun, that like Dusk, for instance, where on the page it just says this stitched together thing, and start working on some designs, do some brainstorming sessions with Kevin or whatever, or the director, whoever, and then it comes together really quickly, or it's a long process where the director doesn't know what he wants. But on Tusk, Kevin knew what he wanted and instantly saw where we were going with it, and it made the project really fun and easy to do. So
yeah, and you've done so many horror films. Do you think it's kind of with what the new look is now, with all the new upgrades and everything? Do you think it's kind of lost its creative direction?
It always goes through swings. What's the next new thing? I don't even know what is currently the hip thing out there right now as far as horror films go. But it goes in kind of spurts, different creative spurts. Sometimes it's zombies, sometimes it's werewolves. What's interesting is when they come up with something completely new, a story with a different mythology or an original mythology, that works. And there's so many untapped legends or folklore out there that I'm amazed more people haven't really started looking into the real stories and trying to find something to do. Problem, there's a million scripts out there written by great writers that are just sitting there and not getting made. Now, a lot of it, the studios are a little fearful of originality sometimes because they want the sure thing. That's why they keep remaking the same stuff over and over, prequels, sequels, and whatever, and reimaginings of everything. So, and I understand there's a place for that because they're trying to launch a franchise for a younger generation. That also doesn't work. It backfires sometimes because our mindset today is different than our mindset when maybe the movie came out back in the 80s that they're redoing or doing another sequel to. And I don't think that necessarily works for a current generation. So, and that's the big trick, them trying to put a spin on it to make it work. And a lot of times it doesn't. How many sequels do you go see and you're like, it's all right, or, oh my God, they really missed the mark on that, I just think it's easier for them now to do that than it is for them to take a leap of faith with, something new and original.
It can be tricky once you get that one hit and then you try to make a sequel. The sequel is tricky itself, just making a second sequel. Good, but not so great, but then they make a third one. Usually the third one's the horrible.
I don't know. There's some like Nightmare on Elm Street 3, Dream Warriors is better than the second one, and better than most of the rest, actually all of them in the series after the first one. So, and there's, Alien, it was a better sequel than the first, two different movies, but it was just as good, so there are those rare occasions where the sequel is better, like Godfather, where the sequel stands out and is just as good, or if not better than the first.
It is all about product, trying to get it out there, and there have been nothing but remakes, prequels, sequels. It's like franchises, even existing franchises. It's like how many times we're going to remake this one character or the actual film in like 10 years from now.
Right. It's like Dracula, I had to redo it every so many years, or Frankenstein.
Yeah, it's the original film hasn't died. Films do not expire. We don't have to constantly remake doing that. I mean, you can do that with video games, but you can't do that with film.
Well, they do, but
I mean, like,
it doesn't work all the time.
It doesn't work all the time.
They just take the old movie and replace the actors' heads with current actors, and that'll be fine.
Yeah, and especially younger ones, younger actors, younger. Oh, it's understandable. It's like we all get old, and we have those characters we knew back from childhood, and there's no way they're going to be able to make a sequel now. Like, they're like, like 65. They can't play the same character like they used to. You got to have a newer character or newer person to play that character, but it'll never feel the same way.
Well, the interesting thing for me in horror now are actually the smaller movies, those lower budget films. I think there's more going on there, originality-wise and everything, than a lot of the big studio pictures. But, I mean, we did, like for instance, It Follows was kind of an original take on something. Late Phases, which was a werewolf movie we did, it was a really good little film, and those are more interesting sometimes than the big studio pictures to even work on. So,
if you were involved with something that may have failed, how would you react to something like this? Well, your work is on something that didn't quite get out there. Like, let's say they criticize the look of it or whatever.
Well, I've had that happen where we've worked really hard on a project and thought we did some really cool stuff, and then the movie comes out and it's not really very good at all. You just basically just chalk it up and move on to the next one, and that's what it is. Filmmaker makes a movie, they throw it out there, and either it hits or finds a following or it doesn't, and it's kind of a crapshoot, So even when a movie's really done well and deserves better, sometimes, marketing department screws it up. People don't really understand what they're looking at or what the movie is, and they don't go see it. Marketing is a big deal,
Yeah, and especially now, several artists have said that you could just simply make a movie on your phone.
You can. There's actually people out there doing that, but I don't know. I don't think I can make a movie on my phone. Kind of a niche out there for those kind of found footage things, but I'm kind of burned out on them.
Yeah, have you ever considered going back to writing or even directing again?
Yeah, I mean, I got projects that I'm out pitching and trying to raise financing for and get somebody interested in it. It's a long process. You have 2 or 3 things, and you just keep hustling them until, somebody makes them or they never get made, and they sit in a bin in your cupboard, I got so many scripts in there that are just kind of sitting there. A lot of them just are things that have great ideas but need to be fleshed out more, That's all you do is pitch and pitch and pitch and send the script out and see if you can connect with the right people with the right money at the right time,
But based on your experiences, what would you share in terms for this type of business as a special makeup artist? What would you actually give out in terms for those that are and want to break into this type of field?
Well, it's changed a lot since when I was starting out. I was lucky enough to start in the heyday of makeup effects, early 80s, mid 80s. Coming off the films I grew up on, and got to work with a lot of those filmmakers, everybody was trying to do new and interesting things with practical makeup effects. Nowadays, because there's a little, the digital has come into it, so, there's always work out there for really talented people and hustlers, and people are motivated. If it's your dream to do this stuff, you can make it happen and do it. It doesn't happen overnight, and it's not like there's not bumps along the road, I've been doing this 30 years, and it's always up and down and up and down. But it's what I like to do. So for an artist out there getting into this field, because I see them a lot of people, at conventions and such, and they're makeup effects artists, and they just can't seem to find work and things like that. But also depends on where they live. A lot of times it's like, well, if you want to find the work, you got to find the work. You got to be prepared to travel. You got to kind of lead a nomadic life at some point, because you're going to be traveling with the production shoot all over the world now, different states. They're not just shooting in LA and New York. You have to be able to go where the work is and be willing to work hard. That's the other thing. The work ethic today is just complete crap. I'm noticing with a lot of younger generation kids, they want everything to happen overnight. It's that instant gratification thing, and it doesn't happen that way. You got to work years and years sometimes, really hard, make a name for yourself.
And it's the fact that they have the energy for this and they have the ambition for it, but the problem is a lot of times they'll get ahead of themselves and they can crash real quick, even if they have a really good background as far as designing or sculpting or painting or anything in general like that. And that's the sad thing. It can kill a career before it even starts.
Well, it can if they're not managing their time, if they have a project that's due, something they're doing for a producer. They wait till the last minute to do it. people notice that. Producers notice that. They don't like that kind of thing, and they tend to kind of just sit at home and watch video games now and stuff when they could be sculpting and improving their portfolio, and that's a big deal. I mean, when I was coming up in the business, my first few years, all I did was take advantage of the shop hours that I was allowed to have after work or whatever, and create something for my portfolio. Do a new makeup, learn a new technique. It's so easy for them to just now go home and spend their time playing video games and surfing the net when that's not very productive.
And not only that, it's a lot of them would cater specifically for video games, but that's completely different, whole new realm.
It's changed. That's a whole other industry too, and I completely am not. I understand the industry as far as conceptually and designing wise. It's kind of doing like a movie production, but I'm not into wanting to create those kind of characters and sit in front of a computer screen all the time. So I still like to get my hands dirty with some clay and plaster and stuff.
Do you think traditional should be the prime?
Well, traditionally, I mean, what's great about it is I can go out and sculpt something and an original character, original figure, anything. It's something I can tangibly actually take out and sell to make a living off of, you know what I mean? Whereas, when you digital model, you make a digital model, who wants it other than the game creators? And it's not like something you put in your living room, and if you're a collector in your, monster room or whatever. I guess someday somebody could, have a TV on the wall and it just has a digital portrait of a painting they did on it, but, that's like your family viewer. You can just switch pictures all the time, to just play everybody's artwork. It just isn't like having the real thing.
Yeah, to actually look at the piece of art. It's like with action figures, for example. A lot of people, it's just toys. No, it's actually a piece of art. It's no different than going to a museum and see a gigantic head. Action figures, really, there's really great artists out there that are making identical likenesses of other characters from TV shows, and including classic horror characters as well. And they're beautiful detail. And
right, and I don't think they even realize the process that goes into making those. And I know it's changed after the last few years because of the rapid prototyping and the ability to grow figures and things like that. All those toys, like the McFarlane toys, like even the Wishmaster. Like I have what's called a 2-up, I believe. It's a figure. It's about 12, 13 inches tall. They had to sculpt that and all the pieces that go on that, and then create the molds and everything separately, and then they get reduced in size, down to the 4-inch size figure. But the original sculptures are like, a foot and a half or so,
Digital, you can put it anywhere. There's nothing wrong with digital art.
There's beautiful digital art. There's beautiful digital artists, and a lot of the artists that I really like were guys that started out doing traditional art and just kind of honed their ability to sculpt in 3 dimensions into the computer realm. So, but they had that, they knew what they were doing because they actually did the physical stuff. It's like a lot of the animators that were the groundbreaking animators that came into visual effects, or digital effects started coming in the 90s. The guys that were having to segue over from the traditional effects, like stop motion animation, that they're doing that now. I mean, Randy Cook did Lord of the Rings and the Hobbit movies, I think, and then you have Phil Tippett, who started off doing all the animation for Star Wars and stuff, and now he's got his own digital effects company and he did like Starship Troopers and various movies. So,
would you say going to low budget films would be the best start in order as far as special makeup?
You mean as a filmmaker?
Yeah.
Well, yeah. I mean, I think that if you come up with something interesting and you have, and I don't even think it's a kitchen sink scenario. I think sometimes you can have some great effects, but they're just in the film sparingly, and they're just shot really effective, and the story's effective and it's creepy. I think biting off a big effects film on a low budget for your first film is a kiss of death. You become overwhelmed. You have too much stuff in the movie. You end up cutting stuff and trying to tailor the movie a little to the budget. And as a filmmaker who's not used to shooting tons of effects, it can be a hindrance, or a burden.
Well, go ahead and plug in any website addresses, and go ahead and tell us about your new current project at the moment, when it's going to be released.
Well, I have no clue. We just finished a movie called The Funhouse Massacre. I don't know when it's going to come out. Obviously, they have quite a bit of work to do in post yet. Yoga Hosers has been in post for a while. That's coming out through Lionsgate sometime this year, and that's Kevin Smith's new movie. It's kind of a spin-off of Tusk. So with some of the characters from the Tusk film in their own movie now. Out in theaters now, we have It Follows, and that's doing real well for a little independent movie. Fear Clinic's out right now. I just hit last month. Check out Late Phases. It's a werewolf movie I'm really proud of. It's a cool movie. Got a movie, Jinn, that just came out and hit VOD, and DVD this month. Oh, and then check out the website, creaturecore.net. We got a lot of cool haunted attraction merchandise on there. Check out the catalog, the reels, our portfolios on there. Creature Core on Facebook. Check that out. That's how you keep up with all our projects. We mostly have stuff on Facebook. So
That is Robert Kurtzman Special Effects.
Thanks, guys.